Well, it's John Black, Super Chemist. This is part 3 of Modern Mom Shows Son Her True Colors. Now, keep in mind, I showed you how much of a Christian is. She would say that raping little girls is moral if God said to do it. This is the type of mentality she has towards her religion, and yet she just threw it all away, saying God was wrong and all men are horrible. And you've seen how she treated her first husband, right? Like he was like, what you could. This man sound the way she describes him, he sounds like the biggest saint on the planet. This man has more honor and love for his family than anyone has ever had. To endure everything he had to endure, and she punished him with nonstop, in her own words, fighting with him from the day second he got home from work till they went to sleep. From her own words, she says that they would fight, but obviously she had to be the one fighting. You know what I mean? Because she can't let no man be the leader. But my whole life I thought, well, because I have this anger, okay, and I'm talking about real anger, like for all of humanity. Okay, if there was a button I could press and kill all of you, I'd do it in a heartbeat without even hesitating. Okay, I'm trying to change that, but yeah, that kind of hate. Okay, and my whole all my mother's kids have that hate towards men. All I have the hate, but it's towards everybody. The grandchildren, the great everyone. They all hate men, and they all have, not every one of them. Everyone's different, but 95% of us, we can't handle any stress. Just like a non-binary, it has the purple hair and the metal on their face. We act like them, where we can't handle anything, and they twist everything a man says around so that they're the victim, and you know what I mean. But so I'm thinking, my whole life I'm like, I have this anger because my father was an evil man, right? I've suppressed my childhood. I don't know what happened. I can't pull from my memories because I don't have any to tell you what happened, okay? But I've always assumed my anger was because of my father, right? And I'm sure a lot of it is. But all my life also, my mother has told me this anger, this deep, deep anger, started when basically right out of the womb. You know what I mean? Obviously not right out of the womb, but I say 6 months, but she's probably saying like a year. I'm a year old or something, where I started just freaking out over. I'm trying to kick her. I'm trying to kick everyone and punch everyone. And I have like this anger where. That anger, that real anger where you're shaking and you're clenching. But she's saying like 6 months, a year old. And I never thought about it, you know what I mean? I just always assumed, oh, that's because of my dad. But was it because of my dad? Or was it because I had a mother who hated men so much that even a man that for almost a decade was a slave to her, took all her abuse, and she abused him all day long by her own admission. That's what he got for being a great man, okay? And then she gets with my dad, who's evil, okay? That once they got married, that's it. He left. He stayed there, but he didn't give her any attention. He didn't whatever. My dad left the house. They broke up and was out of the house for 3 weeks before my mother told us. And we didn't know. We didn't know they broke up. That's how often that he came, we seen him or whatever, okay? Now she left her great man for this man who just abandoned her as soon as they got married, right? It's just like a light switch, you know what I mean? He changed into another man. Now she hated men. Look what she was doing when she had a great man. Now she has this other crap-ass evil man. Evil to the core. And she has a new baby who's a boy, her first boy. Did she do something to me? Because if I think about it logically, a baby, okay, a year-old baby, babies don't have that type of anger, okay? Not because of a parent being absent, or, you know what I mean, like I didn't even know what a father was at that. No one does when you're a little baby. You don't know what's going on. You don't know. So how did I have this hate? This deep core hate, as little as basically being a baby, according to her words. Okay. The only reason I can think of logically is someone was trying to torture me as a baby. And then when I got old enough to where I could tell on them, they stopped. But the anger from being tortured stayed there. I'm 60 years old. I still have that anger inside me. That deep down anger for all humans. Why? Why did it start so young? Did this crazy nut job, I mean, you see what she did to a man who literally gave 80 hours of his life up to support her and the kids. She just abused him all day, every second of the day, she says. She admits they fought. She doesn't say it's all him, according to her. Okay. But she fought with him. That's what she did. That was her reward. That was his reward. And he was a horrible man. I've been heard since day one, since I was born, that man was horrible. That man, now I find out he was working 70, 80 hours a week to support his family. Didn't cheat, didn't drink, didn't do drugs, didn't beat her, didn't go out and spend the money foolishly or go gambling the money away. All he did was go to work and come home, and he apparently did long, hard hours. So that means more than 8 hours, 7 days a week. And he was labeled a horrible man. She took a great man, a great father from the first 4 kids that she had. She took them from him because now he's broke. See, he's broke. He starts drinking. His life is... imagine, this isn't a grown man we're talking about. We're talking about a 15-year-old child who went out working 80 hours a week for a decade for his wife, who abused him the entire time. But he still stayed with her because he loved his children so much. And then she broke him. I mean, I can't... I've been broken by women, and I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Working, I wasn't giving them no 80 hours a week and letting them abuse me for 8 hours, the 4 or 5 hours a day I wasn't working. I can't. Now my siblings that they hate that dad. They blame everything on that dad because he abandoned them after that. I'm sure after the 5 years of picking up his life. This happened to me in my first marriage. She cheated on me. I found out about it. I'm not going to cheat anymore. Then I find out she's still cheating. She never broke up with him. This happens over and over again. Then she finally does break up with him, and I find out, I thought they were just, because it happened so quick. Like, for 2 years, we never argued, never nothing. I treated her like a queen. I literally spent, according to today's standards, I spent like $300-400 a week on this woman as a kid. Just taking her out, giving her presents, giving her this, giving her that. Never an argument, obviously, because I was just giving her everything, treating her like a queen. So she became a queen. A queen is an entitled dictator. So I made her into a dictator. It was all my fault, really, because I didn't know how families work, because I had a single mother who hated men. I thought you treat a woman like a queen and she'll love you. No, that isn't how biology works, okay? So, and I want you to think, my entire family, they're all single mothers, single father. No one has an intact family, but they all have multiple baby daddies, multiple baby mamas, multiple marriages. No one has, and there are some of them that have no kids. They're childless. 60 years old, childless. Or else they have multiple baby daddies, and you know what I mean. I can't remember what it was on though, but I mean, is it so hard to believe that a woman who did that to a man who worked 80 hours a week and she did that to him, and then she cheated on him? She dropped out of school at 9th grade because she was pregnant. And then She has 3 marriages. She screws up. The 3rd marriage, she doesn't even get married. She just moves in with him. And we all look at her. We've always looked at her because she's a Christian. Oh, she goes to church all the time. She's a really good woman. She's the one who made sure that we all had food. No, the government actually made sure that we had food. Her husband and 2nd husband and 3rd husband made sure we had food. She maybe had a part-time job here or there as a real estate. Yeah, real estate. They all have a real estate. But she never worked during my childhood. So she never actually even did that. She never even did that part. But then she teaches that to what do you think her daughters are like? If she's telling her daughters, hey, if a man works 80 hours a week for you to put food on the table, and then he comes home and he doesn't do anything wrong, but you argue with him literally every second that he's home until you start sleep. And then he goes back to work, another 10-hour, 12-hour shift, comes home and endures abuse from the woman the entire time. That's a bad man. That's a horrible man. Well, what's a good man then? What is a good man? And you know what's funny is all my siblings and my mother, back in the day, 100 years ago, we used to say that a man that was economically stable, mentally stable, a hard worker, good morals, we used to call that a good man, a great man. But what does my mother tell her children? And what does her children tell their children? Oh, they tell them, what is a man that's economically stable, mentally stable, good morals, has a good job and does what he's supposed to do? What do these single mothers tell their children? Oh, that's a boring man. You need to run away from that man because he's boring, okay? But if he works 80 hours a week for you and he endures your abuse every second of the day that he isn't working, that's a horrible man. You don't want that man. You don't want that man. Really? And then they expect these women to have stable... No one... There's like 18, 20 people in my immediate family, like, kids, siblings, their nieces, nephews, that kind of thing. None of them have an intact family. Not a single one of them. Okay? And I want you to notice what my mother did to her first husband. He did nothing wrong, but she just badgered him by her own admission for almost a decade. Until he didn't leave. He still didn't leave. Men never leave, according to statistics. Men never leave. Women leave. Okay? When they look down at their little girl and they say, you need to get a good education because men will leave you, so you have to be prepared. No, that's a lie. Men never leave. Women always leave. Okay? Overwhelmingly, in relationships, 90% of the women leave. In marriages, depending on the year, 80% of the time, women are the ones that are leaving. That means only 20% of the time are the men. And most likely it's because they can't take the woman being a horrible, horrible person. You could say, well, no, women leave because men are horrible. Well, then look at the marriage stats. 2 guys married have a 25% divorce rate. You add a woman into there, so it's hetero. Now there's a 50% divorce rate. Take all the men out, so you can't blame no men no more. And you could say, oh, the heterosexual, the woman's leaving because the man's so bad. Well, when you go down to the lesbian couple, the divorce rate goes from 25% to 50%, all the way up to 75%. Basically 75, you might as well say they're going to be all divorced. So obviously it's the woman leaving and being horrible, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, how they are totally brainwashed.